Hey YouTube, what's up? So in this video, I want to talk about something that has kind of been around, or at least the idea has been around for a while, and it has been in our community for a while. Perhaps it hasn't been verbalized, but it's been there for a while, all right? So I want to talk about dark-skinned black people who do not want dark-skinned black children. And okay, before I get into this topic, I do want to give a disclaimer, all right? I know that I'm probably not the best person to be exploring this topic for obvious reasons, right? And I know that there are other people who could, who are dark skinned and who could explore this topic way better than I could. All right. And just want to put that out there. And by the way, if you happen to know of any who have explored this topic, feel free to leave a link to, the video or the article or whatever, inside of the comment section, you know. But I also want to give a shout out to the person who brought this up. A YouTube user who goes by the name of Artists in Exile. And this YouTube user posted the following. My theory about the reason that a dark-skinned person may not want to have a partner that is also dark-skinned is about the possibility of children. Your chances of producing a dark-skinned child are doubled if both parents are dark. Some justify this by feeling that they don't want to put their children through what they went through by being dark-skinned, which I think is a cop-out. And, thanks a lot to YouTube user Artists in Exile for posting that comment. And I do want to explore this, all right? So I don't know, I feel like in my day-to-day life, I've never heard a dark-skinned person say this. And I think, we know, we as people, we kind of know what to say and what not to say, what to verbalize and what not to verbalize. So I feel like as far as like people verbally expressing this, I feel like I don't hear it. I'm not saying that this mentality and idea doesn't exist. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I never heard anyone point blank say that. The most I heard that on like a TV show once. It was like an episode of Girlfriends. One of the characters on there had said something to that extent. She was a dark-skinned woman on there. I forget. I think maybe Tony. I think that may have been her name. It wasn't the other. I think it was Tony. But yeah, so that's pretty much the most I've heard a dark-skinned person actually express that feeling. All right. But as far as like their people's actions, I think that's something to be explored. I think, as you know, actions speak louder than words, right? So as far as actions are concerned, I feel like people's actions may express that idea or that mentality or that feeling. But, let's explore. Why do you think a dark-skinned person would feel that way? Like, oh, I wouldn't want to have a dark-skinned child. Do you think that it is a cop-out? Like, you think that they're just saying that to like, oh, because I don't want my children to go through what I went through as a dark-skinned person. Do you think that's a legitimate excuse, or do you think that it's not a good excuse? Or do you think they're just perhaps using that as an excuse but there's another reason why they would not want to have a dark skinned child, you know. And this topic is like very sensitive. You know, this is a very sensitive topic. So I'm kind of like trying to tread lightly because I don't want to offend anybody. Of course not. You know, I just kind of want to put it out there and just put this out there so that we can have sort of a discussion about it. All right. Um, I think me personally and how I feel, I don't know. I honestly can't say like I would take the dark skinned person's word on it. Like I'm not dark skinned, so I can't be like, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. What do we go through? Like what? Like really? Like how you gonna speak on something that you don't experience, right? So because of that, I wouldn't necessarily feel like me being in a position I wouldn't challenge them on that. I think that's what a dark skinned person should be doing. I think they would be the better person to challenge that idea of like, oh, I don't want my children to go through what I went through, you know. Well, I guess I heard someone else say that. It was like on like a call-in type of show though. Oddly enough, on the YouTube user who is known for posting very offensive videos in regards to black women, especially, and he's also black and he's also dark skinned. You know who I'm talking about, right? Oddly enough, I did hear that on like some call-in show of his. And by the way, I don't really follow this YouTube user as much as it may seem, but on occasions I kind of peek in here and there, you know, and just see what's popping, you know. But as far as this topic is concerned, I don't, dark skinned people who don't want children want their children to be dark skinned. You know, they don't want dark skinned children. Let's get more into that. All right. So, me personally, I feel like that is a valid excuse, you know, but maybe I'm missing something, you know. Again, I'm not the best person to be exploring this topic, but let me just go into it. I think we can say that, darker skinned people tend to bear the brunt of discrimination when it comes to like the anti-blackness. You know, not to say that other, skin tones don't experience discrimination, but I think darker skinned people get it the toughest out of, the black community. And also, even within the community though, you can hear like very anti-black comments like, oh, you're like a burnt biscuit, or like you're a tar baby, or a skillet. Like all this like anti-black stuff, plus hair texture, people, going in on, dark skinned people's hair texture too, as well as the facial features. Some people may even like compare like some dark skinned people to like, you know, gorillas or apes or monkeys, which also comes from slavery and also comes from anti-blackness too. It's like you're getting it from inside of the community, but you're also getting it from outside of the community. So perhaps, there is something to that. Me personally, I would like to have like, I would like to be real, like I would kind of like to have like a son who, a son or a daughter, but especially a son who's like really, really dark skinned. I don't know why. I guess maybe on some level, perhaps I would like to be that. So I would play it out through my kid. I don't know. That might not be the healthiest thing to do, but parents do that though. Like, oh, go be like a sports athlete, be like an athlete, or be like, a scholar, something that they kind of wanted to do but they couldn't do. So you kind of go live it out through your children in a way, Um, so yeah, me personally, I would, but perhaps maybe, well, first of all, I don't really see it for me having like a a son or a daughter who's really dark skinned. I don't see that happening, just because of like genetics. It's possible, of course, but a lot of times, there's like light skinned folks who get like light skinned dudes, especially who get with like dark skinned women. But it also happens with light skinned women and dark skinned men. And sometimes the kids just come out light skinned like they are. And then, like the person like is like really dark skinned too. And it's like something, the genes, the genetics, I don't know, just like the beige just took over there. That happens. Um, but yeah, me thinking about that, I'm like, well, perhaps, I'm going into the situation kind of naive to what dark skinned people go through, you know? And as well, like, if I did have like a dark skinned son or a dark skinned child, would I notice a difference in how they're treated versus say if I had like a light skinned child? Like if I had like a dark skinned child and a light skinned child, and they're both about the same age, more or less, right? Would I notice any difference in the way that they're treated? From what I've heard, there is a difference. You know, there's siblings who are light skinned who have said, have spoken up and said they do notice that they're treated better than their darker skinned sibling. As well, there are parents of, especially like parents who are light skinned, especially these light skinned females, right? Having dark skinned daughters, especially, right? And noticing how they're treated, right? So it's not like, are we really, it's just like, we can't be making this up. It's not like we just making this up. It's not like people, dark skinned folks just making up things just to make up things. Of course not. You know? That's why I don't really try to sit up here and be like, arguing some dark skinned person down about their experience in society. How could I do that? That's dumb. It's ultimately it's it contributes to just more anti-blackness. It's just like, oh, let's just overlook your experience totally, and that's not right. um, so I think that's one reason some dark-skinned people may not want children to go through what they went through. I feel like that is a valid reason. Another reason is maybe the dark-skinned person perhaps may feel like lighter is just something that they would like to see. Like perhaps they may feel like, oh, I want a light-skinned child, right? That's the thing. Like if a dark-skinned person, oh, I wish I had I wish I had a light-skinned child that looked like me. That would kind of come off as like a little like, oh, you're self-hating. But me, I just expressed like, oh, I would like to have a dark-skinned child, especially like a dark-skinned son that looks like me. Am I viewed as self-hating? Probably not. There's folks probably just like, oh, that's something. Ha ha ha. That's the part of it too. It's like if you, it's kind of like if you're dark skinned, it's like you just need to stick with dark skin. How dare you want someone that's not, who doesn't look like you? You're a self-hater. How could you not want someone who looks like you? Even though this society has set it up for dark-skinned people to be self-hating, legitimately, to have issues, Black people in general, of course, but especially darker-skinned Black people. So just, I feel like darker skinned people have the right and the autonomy to have children that they would want to have. Like they have the right to have their children look the way that they want them to look, just like lighter skinned people and every other group of people have, right? But I think it's important to just analyze and ask why. Why do you feel that way? And I think the dark skinned people have said, like, again, not every dark skinned person, of course, I'm speaking about a particular segment, okay? Because, of course, not all dark skinned people feel this way. Not all dark skinned people have the same experience, of course not. Um, but I just think it is important to just, have the conversation, just ask, okay, why do you feel that way? You know? And I think that is something that we kind of fail to have, the conversation. Instead, we just skip to, oh, you're self-hating, oh, you're color struck, you have issues, etc. Right? We start just automatically shame people for this instead of asking, okay, exploring, what treatment have you experienced? Like, that's the thing. I don't think that question is ever asked. Like, how have you been treated in society, in the community, outside of the community, right? What has your experience been like? That question is never asked to darker skinned people who feel this way. But we don't want to ask that question for some reason, right? Especially when it comes to like the treatment inside the community, right? Because I'm sure some dark skinned people can tell you, like, probably some of the worst things they've heard were probably from black people, and actually, I would even, bet and say that it probably came from a black person whose skin tone was probably not too much different from their own. It may have come from like a brown skinned person instead of like another dark skinned person or a light skinned person. Because I think a lot of times people feel like people may assume that light skinned people have these sort of like anti-black sentiments. And while I think that is true to a certain extent, I think as far as like expressing them and saying fucked up shit about dark skinned people, a lot of times I feel like it comes from like that brown skinned person who's not too far off as far as skin tone, not too far off from being that dark skinned person, for example, the whole crispy puppet, right? That the person who's doing that is not too much lighter than the person he's talking about, right? I know some people are going to be like, oh, crispy doesn't mean dark. Oh, crispy means this, that, and the third. When you think of crispy and when it's been said in the community, historically, it has been associated with dark skin, not with whatever else they're talking about, right? So, I guess I've said all I have to say. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys. Feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe. Comments are definitely important. If you're a dark-skinned person, especially the feedback is important for this particular topic. You know, as well, maybe you've had kids who maybe are dark skinned, or maybe had kids who are both dark skinned and light skinned, and maybe see some differences in how they're treated. So many different viewpoints, that could be shared in the comment section, So, again, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you watching the video. Adios and goodbye for now.